today I want to talk about mining machines in Create Aeronautics, specifically on how to make them actually useful in survival. So here's the design I made to demonstrate. It's very compact. There's a lot of features that make it really seamless to use in survival. But I'll talk more about this design in a minute. I'll quickly just demonstrate it for you. So if we fuel up these engines, then we can use the controller to drive it around, and then we can activate the cutting wheels by turning that down, and then it mines. Okay, so the first thing I want to cover is making your mining machine portable, because in survival you don't want to have to rebuild your whole machine in every location you want to mine, especially when most mining spots are going to be underground. So the best way to move around your mining machine is with minecart contraptions. So if you didn't know, you can use the cart assembler to assemble stuff onto a minecart, and then you can just pick up the whole thing as an item using your wrench. But there are some weird quirks with this in Create Aeronautics, and if you get it wrong, you could lose your whole machine. So first of all, you have to understand the three types of blocks that can exist in Create Aeronautics. So you have normal blocks, like on the world grid. You have create contraptions, and you have physics contraptions. And we have to shift our mining machine between all three of these states to move it around like this. So when you first build your machine, it'll exist as normal blocks on the world grid, like this. And then when you use the physics assembler on it, it'll turn into a physics object, which you can use to move it around and mine. But when you want to actually pick it up as a minecart contraption, you first have to disassemble it. Then you place a rail and your cart assembler, the minecart. Make sure to turn this to lock rotation. And then you flip a lever here. And now it's turned into a create contraption, specifically a minecart contraption here. Then you can pick it up with your wrench, and you have the whole thing here as an item. And then you can go somewhere else. You just place down the rail and the contraption. And here, again, it's a create minecart contraption. Then you can turn it into normal blocks again with the cart assembler. And then from here, you can now assemble it as a physics object and go mining again. However, there are some special preparations that you need to make, or else it can kind of bug out and permanently break your whole machine. So I have another copy of our machine here. I'm going to show you how if you super glue it wrong, the whole thing can bug out. So if I just try to super glue the whole thing together like this, and then assemble it, at first it all looks fine. But then if I then try to fuel it up, this happens. And it's just totally broken now. Only the bore head bearing is actually still a block here. Everything else is built as a create contraption, or as it's like all connected to the bore head bearing. So I can try to reassemble it, but then this one, it's all assembled on that one, and then yeah, it's just completely broken. And if you break this, you just lose the whole thing. So the trick is to super glue your rock cutting wheels and your barrel, whatever it's attached to the bore head bearing. You attach these things only to each other and not to anything else. So you need to glue it because when you assemble as a minecart contraption, if you don't have them glued, they'll just be left behind. But you have to make sure they don't overlap with anything else. So here I've made sure to very carefully glue everything around these rock cutting wheels and the barrels, but not overlap with them. And if you do it like this, then everything will work seamlessly, and you can assemble and disassemble exactly how you want. And nothing will break. So you might have noticed that when you assemble and disassemble, sometimes these components just pop off like this. This is actually just a duplication glitch in the mod. As far as I know, there's nothing you can do about this. It'll just duplicate stuff every time you switch states. So now I want to talk about the actual design of this machine that I made. And so the first thing that you might notice is that I put a lot of blocks up here right in the front. And these are to make sure that when you're mining, you don't miss any blocks. So normally, if you didn't have all these blocks in the front, if you go mining here and you just hold forward like this, it'll get stuck on stuff, right? So that right now there's this block right here that I just missed. That's because it moved forward faster than it could mine some of these blocks. And so if we instead just have these blocks in the way, like this, then you'll just run into this block and it'll allow the cutting wheels to just break every block. And so you can just hold forward and it'll just keep mining. The next thing you might notice is that the whole top is covered in like slabs and buttons and signs and everything. And that's to make sure that if gravel falls on top, it'll just break and not get the mining machine stuck. So sometimes, gravel will fall on top and it'll get stuck like this. And then if you try to like move forward, it'll get stuck on stuff like that. But because these are slabs, if gravel actually falls on top, it'll just break off instead of sticking to it like this. So that's what all these things are for. So like, yeah, every block on top here will break gravel. So I've also installed some nice handles on the front and back here to help you get on top. And then from the top, you have your seat here. You can't really see much in your first person, but in your contraption camera, you can see pretty nicely. Also, the seat is low enough where you won't suffocate in the ceiling. You've got a nice barrel here where you can keep your controller, some extra super glue, and fuel. You can fuel up the engines just from up here. And then you can also turn off the front cutting wheels by just turning that up to 15, and they'll stop. And then there's also the physics assembler already here on the back, so you can disassemble and turning into a minecart contraption. And then the other thing I did was make sure this whole thing is only 4 blocks wide, with nothing sticking out on any side or the top or the bottom or the back or anything. And so this makes it really nice to glue as well as to place in your minecart contraption. So let's say I wanted to like dig out this mountain here, so I could like place it down here. Then you see it's like in the wall here, and since it's like so perfectly, there's nothing sticking out on the sides, I can just do this and it'll, for the most part, just break the blocks and be ready to go. So I can just assemble it here, and it will basically just work. If I turn on the mining, it'll just like kind of free itself. However, there are some exceptions. If you place it like really too far into the wall, it will break off certain components. So the throttle lever here, and this lever here, and then there's another lever underneath right here. Those will break off if those are inside of a block when you assemble it, as well as the buttons and the signs, maybe a couple other things. But in general, I made sure to fill in like every block inside. So even if you assemble it like inside the wall, only a few things will break. Also, having flush sides makes sure that it doesn't like get stuck on anything as it goes through, which is really nice because even like the redstone links, if these are on the sides, those will get stuck on things. And then on the top, this is all nice and flush. Even the handles, I made sure to place in it such a way that they're not sticking up. And then on the back here, sometimes the back gets stuck on things as you're going around corners. So I made, instead of slabs, I have buttons and a sign here. Then I also made sure with these copycat steps that you can access the engines from the top here. So you'll have like your fuel here, and then you'll put it in the engines. Now the only thing that this design is missing is a way to get the items out of the vault. Yeah, I don't have like any funnels or anything leading out. So the way you do it is you just take a funnel and just stick it on the side and just let all the items fall out like that. And then when you're done, you just break that. You could put a funnel on and then, you know, switch it back and forth to allow items to come out or not. But then this will leave an extra hitbox on the side that could get stuck on things. And so I'd recommend just putting it on when you're ready to take everything out. So yeah, that's my mining machine design and some tips on how to make it useful in survival. I'll have the schematic download in the description so you can use this yourself. And yeah, have fun.